Sometimes you never notice this stuff until you watch it back. This is the car, this is the track, and this is us in P2 behind Hayden Bramley, who's a Sueyo Alameda iRacing coach. He asked, do you want me to give you some content? I had to clarify that because that's pretty broad. You got an OnlyFans. And past that point, the conversation went private into our DMs. Lap number 1, we're starting in P2 behind him. Not honestly a lot of fast people on. Everybody was doing Bathurst 12. So a lot of these races were kind of uncontested. First time on Hungaroring ever. Well, I think this is like my 4th race, but first week ever on Hungaroring. We get a really good launch, actually pulling ahead of Hayden into turn 1, and it looks like we might be able to clear him. There's a lot of space between us, but I am parking it on the apex to make sure no switchback is happening, and he gets a face full of peanut butter and jelly as he comes around turn 1. We get the lead. He's looking up the inside for the next corner. I don't think he's going to do that. That would be quite a sin, and it's just not worth it. With the pace that both of us had to get away from these people behind, I assumed he would settle behind, and he does. The gap is 1 second behind him to P3, so it's going to be a battle between the two of us. Really, it's going to be a defensive battle on my end because Hayden is extremely fast. I have seen him just put in fantastic laps every time that he is in my race, so I'm going to try my best to hold him behind, actually backing him up around that corner, but it really doesn't do much of a difference because there was such a large gap to P3 that no matter how much I kind of parked it, that gap wasn't really going to close up. I would have to literally like spin or put the car into a stop in order to keep him or in order to back him up to the people behind him, and I wasn't willing to do that. So I changed my focus to just trying to go as quickly as I possibly could and see if I could run away from him, or maybe he makes a mistake trying to make a move and we somehow open up some sort of gap. Braking right before that curve down to second gear, kind of avoiding that curb on the inside. And actually a lot of the driving that I do in this video is pretty suboptimal. On top of learning this track, I also just got new pedals, the SimLab XP1s, so I'm still adjusting to those, and I wanted to just drive as much peak up as I could because I feel like that would be a good baseline for me to learn. That being said, there was still a lot of learning to do on this track specifically for me, and having Hayden behind me is a really great opportunity, or in the same race as me, because I could look over his laps and learn some things. And we'll ride on board with him for a lot of this to kind of show what he does differently and what really he's doing more correct than me. I go a bit wide into turn 1 there, which honestly isn't that much of a problem on this track. As long as you're carrying the speed, you can kind of miss that apex and still have a fantastic run through that first corner. It's really just about braking as late as possible and not letting your speed die down too much. Optimally just going as fast as you can through that corner. Avoiding the getting off of that red and white curbing there. This is a big difference. You'll see that I stay wide and I brake earlier. So I'm staying out wider, I'm braking earlier, I'm taking a straighter line, but if you cut in like that, you have more grip to brake later, doing what Hayden does. And that is something that after this race, I knew I would have to change, because every time we went through that corner, he would get right back onto my tail if I was able to put a gap anywhere throughout the rest of the lap. That was consistently somewhere that he was so much faster than me. Skipping ahead a bit, lap number 5, we were able to hold him behind us for quite a while. We were running some super solid laps. At one point, we pulled a small gap, and once again, here you'll see him kind of close that gap up coming through here. Not a ton. I began to carry more speed through there, but his line allowed him to brake a lot later and harder than I was doing. I was risking locking up my tires way too much. And yeah, just reiterating that again, because you will see me change that in the next video. This video, I hadn't really made that realization yet, but this was another place that he was a lot faster than me. Just taking more of that curb, not opening up that corner as much, also going down to second gear and using that curbing on the right side a lot more, just taking like a much shorter line. He's cutting a lot more of these corners. He's compromising entrances to get better exits, and in some cases compromising exits. It doesn't look like he's going super fast in this case. I actually pull away from him up until this point right here where I'm going to completely miss that apex. But I promise he was much faster than me, and you'll actually see that later in this video when he really begins to turn it on. At the moment, I'm doing everything that I can to keep him behind me, and I was kind of like, I was in a very good rhythm here. I knew it was just a matter of time until he made a move, and I was trying to prepare myself for where that would be. turn 1 is really one of your best opportunities to make a move unless you make a mistake somewhere. It's either turn 1 or it's like 4 corners from the end. There's another heavy braking zone. Not close enough in this case for him. So we come around there. We have a fairly decent gap. It says, I mean, it's only 2/10, but it feels a lot bigger than that. My laps, though, I knew they weren't great. 47.2 was our last laps. We should be in the 46s, 46.7s, around there, going extremely deep into turn 2, and this is going to hurt because we have this long kind of, it's not a straight, but it's flat out through that corner, and I had to lift there because I went so deep into that previous corner. I'm down on speed now, and I'm entering into that corner where he always has a major advantage on me. I kind of get too into my head, try to take it faster than I really should with the line I had, throw myself off, and he's up the inside. A great move by him, but that narrow entry from him gives him a wide exit. I get a very good exit through there, and I'm looking for a move into the chicane, and we are going to get it done. There's no point in going too wide through there, and he knows it. Settling behind to just try and get that move done somewhere else. And the other good overtaking opportunity that I was mentioning earlier, a few corners before the end, is about to arrive, and man, I am just messing up every corner of this, the kind of S's here. One more corner up before the big braking zone, which we are now heading towards, and at this point I think I was actually braking too early, quite a bit too early. You can see he brakes much later than me, and he's still able to just meet that apex perfectly. Big learning opportunity for me there, and I knew when that happened that, yeah, that I was doing something wrong. He then goes deep into the penultimate corner, lets me get back onto his tail, which is pretty crucial if we have a good run through this final corner, which it looks like we may, because once again he's going deep. This could be an opportunity to fire back at him and get that position right back. Turn 1, like I said, the other good overtaking opportunity. Lap number 7, so we're about halfway through. There's 8 laps total, a little bit less than halfway, but he moves to defend really early. There is space on the inside, but I'm not going to take it. I'm going to instead try and look for a really good exit, but I just kind of go too deep there. I'm trying to like get a switchback here, which I do get a better exit, but I'm just compromising way too much mid-corner and on the entry. Like, I'm overslowing the car. I'm actually braking too early, and I'm still going deep because I'm like trying. I was just being too patient with myself, I think. I was just being too slow, and in multiple places I was noticing that I would do that. Like, when I look for a switchback, I just hesitate on throttle for an extra like quarter of a second. That makes all of the difference and allows the person who optimally I should be able to, you know, get a switchback on, get the run on me, and I'm not able to close up that gap. Now, as we continue around this lap, you'll see him begin to pull away further and further, and in just about every single corner, you will see him eke out a little bit of time from us. There's, like I said, there's a lot to be done. We were doing some things wrong here, and Hayden is doing just about everything right. He was very quick. I think at his best, he was doing like mid 46s or low 46s, which is where you want to be. My goal for the week was to get into like 46.1s, 46.2s with race pace, and we'll cover that in the next video. But on this one, yeah, we're not there. Hayden is absolutely dusting us, and honestly, I wish I could say that we put up some sort of fight, but as the race went on, it just got worse for us. Next lap into corner number 2, and I mean, this was the beginning truly of the downfall, I think. Trying to get on throttle and just maintain way too much steering instead of, you know, steering at the end of my kind of braking phase. I was instead trying to steer at the beginning of my throttle phase, which is a very bad habit of mine. By the final lap, the gap didn't really ever come down by any meaningful amount. I think he was about 2 seconds ahead of us, and I was trying to watch his lines from a distance. I did go back over them after the race and kind of really dive deep into what was going on, but we had 17 seconds to P3, so it was a pretty convincing P2, I would say. Convinced myself that, you know, at least I could be consistent, which on a new track I think is really important. Even if I'm not to the pace where I want to be, I was being consistent. I was pretty happy with that. Hayden celebratorily locking up his tires in front of me, making a fool of me that race. Now, can't be upset with that. We only gained 1 less I rating than him for 1 position, so it's pretty crazy. We did have a lot of off tracks. We lost 0.12 safety rating. Now, this next race is going to be totally different. I am so bad at qualifying. I'm so bad at qualifying. I don't know why. Like, I just off track. Boom. I get an off track there almost every single time I'm qualifying, and then I kind of have to go slower in my second lap to make sure that I get a lap in, as I am car number 1 here, so last place would be horrible. 47.39, not great. We're behind Eduardo Santos, but like last race, we're starting on the inside as P2, which is actually somewhat of an advantage. As long as you get a decent launch, you secure basically P1 out of turn 1. And Eduardo knows this, so he is all on my ass. He's not going to let me open up this corner whatsoever, but he also doesn't open the corner up for himself. So the advantage that he could have gained by like swinging to the outside there, he basically loses, as he just, I mean, he really fucks himself over here, because if you're going to hold somebody tight, you need to open that corner back up for yourself. Now, exiting that corner, car number 4, just, I mean, to be blunt, he murders Eduardo. I don't think he did this on purpose. Actually, I know he didn't do this on purpose. I drove with this guy a lot this week, and, I mean, he was a very clean driver for the most part, through car number 3, trying to split the inside. There's 7 spinning off to the side. This would start, like, a flame inside of Eduardo that I have not seen in iRacing very often. He is he's hitting this guy, like he's trying to make this crazy overtake. He actually does get it done though. Like he gets it done, and the car ahead, car number 4, I think he knows there's only one way out of this, and it is to get around as many people as possible. Fortunately, somebody is going to slide off on the side. Maybe that'll put a car between them. Heading into the long left-hander before the chicane. He's got a ton of cars behind him. Eduardo is sending it at every single corner. He's now right behind him, so car number 4 has to make a move now into the chicane, and on the first lap, this can be dangerous, but he's fucking doing it anyway. Beautifully done. Eduardo following him through on the inside with a good exit through that chicane of car number 15. Car number 15 wants nothing to do with that, backing out, and the chase is on. It is impeccable for car number 4 to get cars between himself and Eduardo. I don't know if Eduardo said something on the mic or how car number 4, like, sometimes you just get that feeling when like you make contact with somebody that, holy fuck, this guy is going to kill me. And I think that car number 4 was feeling that. Eduardo is almost on his tail. Honestly, Gomez, who is car number 4, so I'm going to refer to him as Gomez, needs to get a move on, like, right now. It's not looking great. And honestly, after seeing that Eduardo didn't kill him there, I would kind of be like, all right, maybe it's not as bad as I thought. Coming on to lap number 2. If I were Gomez and Eduardo didn't kill me there, I'd be like, okay, it's not as bad as I thought. Like, he's not going to kill me. And actually, he doesn't. I mean, he's looking to go around the outside here. Now, there's another thing happening. It's kind of hard to describe, but that car ahead of Gomez right now, that white Porsche, he is on Eduardo's team. I think he got kicked off of the team after this race because he no longer has that livery on. But when I was in this race, that car right ahead of Gomez was on Eduardo's team. He was wearing the same livery as Eduardo. So I think that they were working together to try and like close Gomez off, because it seemed like the car ahead of Gomez was kind of holding him back or trying to block him in some instances, to probably aid Eduardo, which, I mean, that's team racing, I assume, and that it does happen in iRacing sometimes. But Eduardo seems to be driving against him actually pretty clean. I was expecting a punt right away, but it didn't happen. But Gomez around the outside this time into the chicane, 2 cars ahead, spinning off, and Gomez kind of bundles his way through there, knocking the teammate of Eduardo out. Car number 13, just a replay of him shunting that guy as Gomez somehow finds room. Eduardo, once again, following him through, very similar move to last time, and he remains right behind Gomez. But, like, being optimistic for Gomez, it does seem like Eduardo is going to drive pretty fairly, especially after my last video. Like, I was literally expecting him to just wreck Gomez on that next corner, but he didn't. So props to Eduardo. And then he's going to follow that up with a massive dive bomb. Actually, just about gets it done. He's tries to park it on the apex, and Gomez spins him out. Again, I don't think this was on purpose. There was a car on the outside, so I think that Eduardo was trying to kind of stay tight so that he didn't run into that car on the outside. Maybe Gomez didn't see that Eduardo didn't have the whole track. I don't know, but it ends with Eduardo behind Gomez after another contact, and Eduardo, at this point, he's probably back in that mindset. He's making a move immediately. He knows he has to get people between him, but car number 20 with a perfectly executed switchback on him, and that really just loses Gomez time. So once again, The situation is kind of reset. Eduardo behind Gomez. Gomez not making a move yet on car number 20. However, out of the chicane with a beautiful exit, going to cut up the inside, taking a play out of Eduardo's book there. And Eduardo following him on the next corner. Like, car number 20 is like, fuck this. I feel like he kind of sees what's going on. These guys were just on an absolute tear. Lap number 4, Eduardo is on his ass at this point, coming through that corner where Hayden Bramley was just so much faster than me, and you can see these guys kind of taking Hayden's line. He gets right up on Gomez's tail there and into the next corner. Pretty optimistic move from Eduardo, and to be honest, I don't know if he was actually trying to make that move stick or if he was just trying to hit the guy. Either way, what happens is Eduardo spins himself out again and places 2 cars between himself and Gomez. One of those cars being Eduardo's teammate, who I believe has now been kicked off of the team. This guy right here. I swear he was wearing the same livery as Eduardo before this race or during this race, and then after this race he changed it. So I think he got kicked off, and maybe that has something to do with what happens in this race or what is happening. Eduardo is, I mean, that's not really an overtaking opportunity, but that guy was pretty far off the pace, so can't be upset at him about that. But he did make contact there, and all of these contacts are going to add up for Gomez and Eduardo. I don't know how many they have right here, but Gomez says this in the chat at this point. If it's in Spanish, because Gomez is Spanish, it means I give up. But if it's Portuguese, which Eduardo is Portuguese, then it means I'm laughing. So those have different meanings, but they kind of still fit in different ways. And I think this might be, like, I don't know if Eduardo got this upset about this, but he runs into the back of car number 12 there, who at the time was his teammate. I have no idea, but I just wanted to highlight that point because I feel like that may have something to do with the guy no longer driving for this team. And Eduardo finds himself behind Gomez. Now, I personally think, I mean, I actually know this, that Eduardo is faster than Gomez. Eduardo is a very fast driver. I've seen him on other tracks be extremely competitive. This race, something must have just possessed him in a way that, I mean, I haven't seen since The Conjuring. Lap number 7, a few laps later, Nick Gomez is able to hold Eduardo behind him for some time, but he ends up running into this car and not making a move as early as he should have. That was a good opportunity for him to make a dive up the chicane, which is an optimistic move, yes, but at this point, it's make an optimistic move or probably get murdered by Eduardo. I think the only reason he's not trying to make one of those moves is because he must have like high incidence. So if he were to make an optimistic move, get contact, maybe it gives him a drive through and he's trying to avoid that. But to be honest, at this point, there is no way that you don't get a drive through, because if you don't make that move, you're going to get hit by this guy. So, I mean, choose your option. Honestly, he should just drive into the pits right now. He should just go into the pits to get away from this guy, because there's no point. Oh, and first, I actually thought he was going to do that. And here we go. He doesn't do it. I mean, to be fair, Eduardo might have just followed him in. But he locks up his brakes, takes the inside, hits Gomez into the wall. And Gomez has to watch in his rear view as Eduardo drives away. And this is something else. And Gomez is... He did get a drive-through from that, so I was correct. And he has to drive backwards to get into the pits. That must be an illegal pit entry. I don't know if... I think you get a penalty for that as well, so... He must have at least like a stop and hold, and I think he has a stop and hold, and he has a drive-through. Meanwhile, I am just fucking chilling. Like, I have 6 seconds to the guy behind me. I actually spun twice in this race by myself, just really trying to push my own limit, because it kind of felt like I was hot lapping, which I actually needed. I needed to test some stuff out. And as fate would have it, the contact at last lap between Gomez and Eduardo gave them both drive-throughs. So Eduardo has to go serve his now. Gomez is just now finishing serving his stop and hold. And look at, I mean, it looks like he's literally driving towards Gomez in the pits, which wouldn't even matter. If I was Gomez, I would have just stayed there, because I think you like go ghost mode. So I just would have stayed in the pits. It's not going to happen, though. He pulls out of the pits, but he does have some people between himself and Eduardo. This blue guy and then car number 20, who spins out and drives out of the way before Eduardo comes around. So it kind of removes him from the situation. But there is still, I don't know, 10 seconds at the very least. I'd say maybe like 8 or 9 seconds between Eduardo and car number 4. By the time he's reaching that fast left-hander, Eduardo is way back there. And I can feel the energy radiating off of that that Brazilian livery. Lap number 11.
Get your ass back here, boy!
He's caught him, dude. Car number 4 got stuck behind this guy, and I think he must once again find himself in that same situation where it's like one contact and you're disqualified. I'm pretty sure that's the situation here, because otherwise he would have made a move at some point, but he never did. Eduardo was able to basically put in hot laps, and Eduardo is pretty fast. Now, just about getting the move done there, which would have been crucial, but not able to do it. So heading on to lap number 12, still 5 laps left to go, including this one. A lot of time to try and survive, and he's got to make the move here. Sure enough, he's looking up the inside. That one should be done. So up the inside of car number 18, very clean, great move. Eduardo now has the situation of getting around this guy before he can handle Gomez, and I believe Eduardo is in that same boat of if you make contact, you get DQ'd. But he's actually able to put a splendid move up the inside of 1, 2, 3 corners from the end. I don't know what the number is, but really great move by him there. Gomez is in that same situation he was in before, where he's stuck behind this guy. He's not making a move. I'm sure, he's still one contact away from getting DQ'd. And lap number 13 comes around. This guy drives onto the track from absolutely nowhere, which puts another car between Eduardo and this guy, thankfully. And at the same time, Gomez is going to be able to look up the inside of turn 2, get that move done. It puts the 2 guys behind him side by side. They'll kind of settle into a rhythm there, but 2 cars between Eduardo and Gomez, looking pretty safe for Gomez. And at this point, I mean, the race, there's only a few laps left to go. Jesus Christ, dude, this guy, I mean, it's a great move, but it's just crazy to, like, I know he is on the limit of getting disqualified, and he is just absolutely sending it, like, to still have that fury within you. Guys, if you ever feel that type of fury against somebody, or if somebody's feeling that against you, do not do what either of these guys are doing. This is the worst decision from car number 4. I don't know why. He slows down and he decides to turn the tables. It definitely catches Eduardo off guard. Eduardo's like, okay, hold up. Let's make a deal, and it's not happening. He's Gomez just, like, I mean, flipped the script on him. He's braking the exit of the corner. They both get contacts for that, and sure enough, boom, they're both gone. I had no idea any of that happened until watching this back, and this was like, sometimes it's just so funny to watch races back and see the storylines that you had nothing to do with. I mean, this race was like, we were literally just cruising. We spun a couple times, but we set some decent laps. We got down to a 46.8 in race, which at this point I think was my fastest in an actual race, and we got the win. Beautiful. So there are the results for us. Ba-bang, P1, baby. Kind of expected for that one, honestly. Minus 130 and minus 112 for Nick and Eduardo, 27 and 25 incidents, and they both got DQ'd. Like, that is mind-boggling to me. So yeah, there's our gains. Whatever. If you guys enjoyed this video and want to see more and support me, please check out my channel. There's some awesome stuff there.